And though it doesn't feel like a blessing in the moment, one day you'll look back and say, if it hadn't hurt me, it wouldn't have healed me. There's a reason why some of the strongest women carry the deepest wounds, because they didn't just survive, they transformed. They let the pain teach them, not trap them. They sat in the darkness and listened. They asked hard questions. They cried prayers no one heard. And in those quiet moments, something began to shift. The pain started peeling back the layers, the false identities, the masked confidence, the roles they played for acceptance. Slowly, the real woman emerged. Not perfect, but powerful. Not unscarred, but undeniable. Not untouched by life, but unshaken by it. You don't have to run from what broke you. You don't have to cover up the moments you thought you lost yourself, because those are the exact moments that birth the truest version of you. Every scar carries a story, and every story carries weight. Your voice becomes stronger when it's forged in fire. Your steps become sure when they've walked through storms. There is nothing more unstoppable than a woman who's been wounded but still walks with grace, because she knows pain doesn't define her. It refines her. Some people will never understand why you love so deeply, why you protect so fiercely, why you forgive so freely. It's because you know what it's like to be on the other side. You've been the one who needed mercy. You've been the one holding on by a thread. You sat in the silence of your own soul, waiting for a sign that you mattered. So now you love different. You move different. You carry purpose in your presence. Pain gave you eyes to see what most people overlook. Pain gave you empathy. It gave you vision. It gave you a purpose that can't be shaken by applause or rejection. Purpose doesn't always come wrapped in a dream. Sometimes it comes wrapped in loss. Sometimes it introduces itself through grief. But purpose isn't about what you do. It's about who you become. It's about how you show up after the storm, how you speak when no one's listening, how you rise when no one claps. That's purpose. And pain is the soil it grows in. The woman who learns to let pain speak without silencing it becomes the woman who can speak life into others. She doesn't minimize suffering, she honors it. She doesn't pretend to be strong, she simply allows herself to be real, because authenticity is strength. And when you've been to the bottom and made peace with it, no one can scare you with shallow threats. You've been through the worst and you're still here, not just alive, but alive with intention. The most beautiful thing about pain is that it creates depth. A woman who's experienced real pain becomes a well of wisdom. She doesn't just talk about healing, she embodies it. She doesn't just preach about faith, she lives it with every trembling step. People look at her and think she's lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. She bled for this peace. She cried for this strength. She fought for this clarity. And now she stands not just for herself, but for every soul that's still finding its way through the darkness. When pain becomes purpose, your past no longer owns you. It becomes fuel. It becomes testimony. It becomes the reason you walk into a room and the energy shifts, because people don't just hear your words. They feel your journey. They sense the depth of someone who's been broken and built back differently. You become a walking light for those still lost in their night. And here's what's most powerful. When pain becomes purpose, you don't seek revenge. You seek redemption. You don't live to prove people wrong. You live to prove to yourself that healing is holy and it's possible. You no longer live in reaction to what happened. You live in alignment with what's coming, because purpose always pulls you forward, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel ready, even when the memory of your pain still stings a little. Purpose says, come anyway. And you go limping if you must, because you've learned that movement is healing. There's a sacredness in the soul of a woman who allowed pain to teach her without turning her bitter. She speaks with softness, but her words shake the ground. She smiles gently, but her presence carries thunder. She's not a victim of her story. She's the author now. And she writes with the ink of experience, with paragraphs of perseverance made of praise. So if you're walking through pain right now, don't curse it. Don't hide from it. Let it speak. Let it shape you. Let it burn away everything that no longer serves you. And when you rise, and you won't just rise for yourself. You'll rise for everyone who thought they couldn't. Because you'll carry proof that pain has a purpose, that suffering can be sacred, that what tried to break you only woke up the divine inside you. Grace in her presence is not something that can be faked, forced, or manufactured. It's not loud. It doesn't need to announce itself when she walks in the room. It lives quietly in the way she holds herself, in the stillness behind her eyes, and in the way she speaks less but means more. Grace is not decoration. It is power under control. And when a woman carries it, the atmosphere shifts around her. People may not always understand what they're feeling in her presence, but they know something is different. It's not charisma. It's not charm. It's not ambition. It's grace. You see it in how she listens, not just with her ears, but with her entire soul. When she speaks, there's a weight to her words, not because they're crafted perfectly, but because they're birthed from a deep well of understanding. She doesn't speak to impress. She speaks to connect. Her presence isn't about taking space. It's about creating space for healing, for peace, for truth. People feel safe around her, not because she promises perfection, but because her energy tells the truth. You are allowed to be human here. Grace is not always seen in success. It's often revealed in restraint. When someone offends her, she doesn't retaliate. When someone doubts her, she doesn't crumble. When someone betrays her, she doesn't broadcast the pain. She chooses dignity over drama. That's not weakness. That's mastery. It takes strength to hold your peace when you have every reason to fight. It takes power to choose silence when you could explode. Her strength doesn't show in how loud she can roar, but in how softly she can stand, unshaken, unmoved, fully aware of who she is and what she carries. You don't see her reacting to everything because she's not built for chaos. She was made for calm. Not the kind of calm that avoids conflict, but the kind that transforms it. Her presence doesn't just calm a room, it reorders it. People bring her their burdens and walk away feeling lighter, not because she solved everything, but because she reminded them of what matters. She doesn't try to be the answer. She simply points people back to themselves, back to truth, back to peace. Peace. There is a patience in her steps that can't be rushed, a softness in her timing that doesn't come from naivety, but from wisdom. She has learned the difference between movement and progress. She knows how to wait without becoming bitter, how to hope without becoming desperate. She doesn't chase moments, she lets them arrive. That kind of grace doesn't develop overnight. It's the fruit of surrender. It's the result of choosing trust over control, of choosing presence over performance, of choosing to be instead of trying to become. You won't see her trying to dominate a conversation or force her opinion. She has nothing to prove. Her identity is not rooted in validation, in applause, or in acceptance. It's rooted in something deeper, something eternal. She moves from a place of knowing, not from a place of needing. Her confidence isn't arrogance, it's alignment. She's in tune with something greater than herself, and because of that, she doesn't need to chase anything. What's meant for her is already making its way to her, and she knows it. Grace is in the way she handles disappointment. She doesn't let heartbreak make her hard. She doesn't let failure make her fearful. When doors close, she blesses them and keeps walking. Not because it didn't hurt, but because she understands that rejection is sometimes redirection. Her spirit is not crushed by change. It's refined by it. She trusts that what breaks her is also building her, and that even in loss, there is learning. That kind of maturity can't be taught by books. It's written through life, page by page, moment by moment, lesson by lesson. Her grace isn't just for show, it's for service. She doesn't carry it to elevate herself above others, but to uplift others from where they are. She doesn't need a stage to be impactful. Her impact is in the quiet prayers she prays for people who will never know. It's in the text she sends when she feels someone's pain before they say a word. It's in her refusal to judge the wounds of others because she knows what it's like to bleed in silence. She's not interested in being admired. She's committed to being real. There's a sacredness to how she shows up in difficult moments. She doesn't shrink. She doesn't panic. She anchors herself. She knows that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of perspective. She has faced storms that should have taken her out. She's cried tears that no one ever saw. She's prayed prayers that haven't been answered yet. And still, she carries herself with grace. Not because everything is perfect, but because her soul is planted in something deeper than circumstances. She's not floating on surface emotions. She's grounded in eternal truths. People often mistake her gentleness for weakness, but that's because they don't understand the war she had to survive to become this calm. They don't see the nights she cried on the floor, the battles she fought in her mind, the demons she silenced with praise. They don't know how many times she had to encourage herself when no one else showed up. And still she smiles, still she serves, still she shows up with light in her eyes and peace in her step. That's not weakness, that's divine strength in disguise. She's not easily shaken because she knows who walks with her. There's a stillness about her that doesn't come from the world. It comes from her connection to the divine. She's been through too much to be fooled by surface level things. She's through intention. She discerns energy. She guards her peace like it's sacred because it is. And she doesn't give her presence away to people who can't handle the weight of it. Not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. She knows her spirit is not for everyone, and that's okay. The beauty of grace is that it never demands attention, but it always commands respect. People don't leave her presence the same. Something settles in them. Something shifts. Because grace doesn't just make people feel better. It makes them remember who they are. It reminds them of the goodness that still exists, of the peace that's still possible, of the strength that lives quietly inside them. She doesn't preach it. She lives it. And in doing so, she gives people permission to breathe deeper, to soften their hearts, to believe again. Grace has become her rhythm, her language, her armor. She walks with it. She gives it freely. And when life throws chaos her way, she doesn't match its volume. She matches it with presence. She stays steady, not because she has no fear, but because she's learned to walk with it without letting it lead. Grace doesn't make her life easier. It makes her spirit untouchable. And that is what makes her unforgettable. There is something about her that can't be explained in simple terms. It's not just confidence. It's not just charm. It's not ego. It's something deeper, something sacred. Her spirit attracts elevation, and she doesn't even have to try. She doesn't chase the spotlight, but somehow the light finds her. She doesn't beg to be seen, but her presence makes people look twice. It's not that she demands respect. It's that her spirit commands it. When she walks into a room, something shifts, not because of how loud she is, but because of how aligned she is. She's in tune with something higher. She's connected to something divine, and everything about her reflects it. There's an energy that flows from her, the kind that pulls people forward, not by force, but by inspiration. Her presence makes you want to rise, not because she asks you to, but because standing next to her reminds you of who you are. There is no jealousy in her spirit, no insecurity. She doesn't dim her light to make others comfortable, but she doesn't use it to blind anyone either. Her glow is not for attention. It's for direction. She rises so others remember that they can too. She's not in competition with anyone. She's in communion with purpose. That's why her elevation is not temporary. It's transformational. What you don't see is the process behind her power. You see the peace now, but you don't see the battle she faced to earn it. You feel the strength in her words, but you don't know the silence she had to endure to find that voice. She's not lucky. She's chosen. She's not boastful. She's been broken and built back up differently. That's what attracts elevation to her. It's not perfection. It's authenticity. She doesn't pretend to have it all together. She walks in her truth even when it's messy. And the universe, God, life, it all rises to meet her where she is because she dares to walk in alignment, not approval. Elevation doesn't come to those who seek it for ego. It comes to those who are ready for responsibility. And her spirit carries that. She doesn't just want to go higher for herself, She wants to bring others with her. She's not climbing ladders to look down on people. She's building bridges to lift them up. And because her motives are pure, her blessings are undeniable. Doors open for her that others try to force open. People gravitate toward her, not because she asks for followers, but because her spirit quietly leads. You can tell a lot about someone by the way they handle elevation. Some use it to separate themselves. She uses it to serve. Some become arrogant. She becomes more grounded. The higher she goes, the deeper she roots herself in humility. She doesn't forget the nights she cried herself to sleep. She doesn't erase the seasons where no one clapped for her. She remembers who she was when nobody knew her name, and that keeps her anchored. Her elevation doesn't make her look down on others. It helps her see more clearly how far people can go when they believe. Her energy is a mirror. When people meet her, they start seeing themselves differently. They start dreaming again. They start hoping again. Not because she gave them permission, but because her life makes possibility feel real. She doesn't have to preach about transformation. She is the sermon. Her growth is visible. Her strength is felt. And her elevation is the evidence that staying true to your spirit pays off. She doesn't need to advertise her journey. Her peace is her proof. Her consistency is her character. Her grace is her gift. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't shrink for anyone, not because she thinks she's better, but because she knows who she is. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's trying to impact everyone. She's not driven by applause. She's guided by calling. And when your spirit moves like that, elevation isn't something you pursue. It's something you attract. She doesn't hustle for every opportunity. Some of the best ones find her when she's resting, praying, healing, trusting. Because when your energy is clean and your intention is clear, life opens up in ways hustle can't manufacture. People often misunderstand women like her. They think she's lucky or arrogant or too much. But the truth is, she's just aligned. She's learned how to let go of what drains her. She's learned how to say no to what doesn't grow her. She's learned that isolation is sometimes the path to elevation. She's had to walk alone, cry alone, build alone. And now that she's standing, it's not because someone carried her. It's because she refused to quit. That kind of spirit can't be ignored. It can't be boxed in. It rises naturally, undeniably, relentlessly. Elevation isn't about titles or status or fame. It's about becoming. And she becomes more of herself every single day, not for the world, but for her own soul. She doesn't wake up trying to impress the crowd. She wakes up trying to be a better version of who she was yesterday. That mindset, that devotion, that's why doors open. That's why people trust her. That's why opportunities find her. She's not chasing platform. She's building legacy. Her elevation is not for the moment. It's for the generations coming after her. Even in stillness, she's rising. Even in struggle, she's being promoted. Because elevation doesn't always look like a win. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like healing. Sometimes it looks like being overlooked. But she knows better now. She knows that elevation often hides in preparation. And she's not afraid of slow seasons because she knows the deeper the roots, the higher the rise. She embraces the quiet, the hard, the lonely because she knows it's all part of the assignment. And when the time is right, she steps into new spaces, not as a visitor, but as someone who belongs. Her spirit is tuned to something higher. She doesn't follow trends. She follows truth. She doesn't move to impress. She moves in obedience. And that's what makes her rare. That's what makes her powerful. The elevation she carries isn't loud, but it's lasting. It's not rushed, but it's real. She didn't take shortcuts. She took the long road, the hard road, the road that built her into someone who doesn't just rise, but helps others rise too. That's what elevation looks like when it's real. It's not self-centered, it's service-led, and she embodies that with every step she takes. She walks with divine power, not because she announces it, but because it moves through her so effortlessly that even silence feels holy when she enters the room. It's in her presence, in the way she carries herself, in the calm assurance in her eyes. She doesn't chase validation because her worth isn't up for negotiation. It was already written in heavenly ink long before anyone tried to define her. She knows who she is, not because of the world's approval, but because the divine whispered it into her spirit. She moves like she's been spoken over by something greater, because she has. That's not confidence. Calling, there's a quiet strength in her footsteps, the kind that doesn't need to stop to be heard. She walks in purpose, and that walk is different. It's intentional. It's firm. It's graceful. She's not trying to keep up with anyone because she's been set apart. She understands the difference between being busy and being aligned. Her journey is not about how fast she gets there. It's about how deeply she lives every moment. That kind of divine awareness makes her presence undeniable. People feel something around her, something they can't quite name. But it stirs them, wakes them, pulls them inward. That's divine power in motion. She's not afraid to stand alone because she knows she's never truly alone. The one who walks with her is unseen, but undeniably present. In her choices, in her peace, in her resilience. That's the power people sense when she speaks with authority without raising her voice. When she chooses grace instead of revenge. When she continues to rise no matter how many times life tried to bury her. That power didn't come from textbooks or mentors. It was forged in the fire, in the dark, in the private places where she met God face to face and came back changed. You see, divine power doesn't make her invincible. It makes her anchored. It doesn't exempt her from pain. It empowers her through it. She's cried prayers nobody heard. She's wrestled with questions no one could answer. She's walked through seasons that almost broke her spirit, but she emerged refined, not ruined, strengthened, not shattered. That's divine power. It doesn't just carry you through, it transforms you in the process. And now she walks with the kind of authority that doesn't need applause. Her steps are laced with purpose, her silence filled with wisdom, her gaze steady because she's seen enough to stop fearing the unknown. People often wonder how she keeps going, how she stays so rooted, so full of light in a world that can be so dark. But they don't understand that she's been plugged into a source that doesn't run dry. Her prayers are not recitations, they're conversations. Her faith is not a label, it's a lifestyle. She doesn't just believe in something higher, she walks with it daily. Her intuition is sharp because it's been shaped by divine listening. Her discernment is deep because she's been taught by the Spirit, not just experience. And that's why she can see through deception, recognize alignment, and sense energy long before words are spoken. She's not impressed by status or noise. She's drawn to authenticity, to truth, to purpose. That's divine power at work. It teaches you to see differently, to choose differently, to respond differently. She's not reactive because she's not ruled by emotion. She's ruled by vision. And that vision has been refined by something sacred. That's why she walks with grace under pressure. Why she speaks life when others speak fear. Why she holds the line when it would be easier to fold. She's not playing by man-made rules. She's living by divine design. That's why the usual formulas don't apply to her. She's built from something deeper. You don't see her begging for blessings. She knows she is the blessing, not in an arrogant way, but in an anointed way. Her presence brings clarity. Her words bring healing. Her choices bring light. That's not random. That's divine strategy. She's been placed, not pushed. She's been guided, not guessed. Every detour in her life became a doorway. Every rejection became redirection, and every delay became development. That's the rhythm of someone who walks with divine power. They don't fight the flow, they trust it. They surrender to the timing, not because it's easy, but because they've tasted what happens when they try to control what only heaven can orchestrate. There's nothing casual about the way she lives. She pays attention to moments, to people, to pain. She's present in ways others can't replicate because her soul is awake. And that awakeness allows her to see opportunity where others see obstacles. She's not just living life, she's co-creating with the divine. Every decision she makes is laced with intention. Every boundary she sets is a sacred act of self-respect. Every risk she takes is covered in prayer. She moves with clarity, not because the path is always visible, but because the one who guides her never is lost. When life gets loud, she gets quiet. When chaos erupts, she stands still. That's not passivity. It's power under guidance. She knows her strength doesn't come from doing more, but from staying aligned. Divine power is not about dominance. It's about direction. And she never moves unless it's guided. She doesn't waste energy on what distracts her from destiny. She's focused, not frantic. She's faithful, not fearful. And that consistency is what makes her different. Anyone can move fast. Few can move faithfully. She chooses the latter because she's not here for trends. She's here for impact. What's beautiful about her walk is that it's not perfect. It's purposeful. She doesn't claim to have it all figured out, but she knows who does. And that surrender is what fuels her strength. She doesn't perform for approval. She shows up in authenticity, and that draws the right people, the right places, the right timing. Her life is not built on hustle. It's built on harmony, and that's why she lasts. Divine power doesn't burn you out. It builds you up. It gives her capacity beyond her natural limits. It stretches her heart without breaking it. It lifts her without inflating her. It humbles her without shrinking her. That balance is what makes her unshakable. You'll rarely see her panic, not because life doesn't test her, but because she knows who holds the final word. She walks with assurance that what is hers will not miss her. She doesn't fight for seats at tables. She builds her own and then invites others to eat. Makes her untouchable. It makes her unforgettable. Because when you encounter someone walking with divine power, you don't just remember how they looked. You remember how they made you feel, seen, safe, stirred. That's her legacy, not in how many people praise her, but in how many people rise after crossing her path. She walks with divine power, not because she is flawless, but because she is faithful. Not because she is above struggle, but because she is sustained through it. Not because she has all the answers, but because she listens to the one who does. And in a world that glorifies noise, she honors stillness. In a world that celebrates speed, she reveres timing. In a world obsessed with doing, she is rooted in being. That's her superpower. That's her authority. That's what makes her more than a woman. That's what makes her chosen. ChatGPT says she is not ordinary. She is not here by accident. Every step she takes, every choice she makes, every trial she survived has been leading her to this moment. Her spirit is wrapped in purpose. Her walk is covered in grace, and her soul is aligned with something divine. She doesn't need to prove herself. Her life is the proof. She's not striving for approval. She's living in assignment. Whether she walks through fire or favor, silence or spotlight, her power remains constant because it does not come from the world. It flows through her from a higher source. She heals, she uplifts, she elevates, and she carries a light that can't be dimmed. She is chosen, she is guided, she is protected. And when she walks with angels, she walks with divine power.